Meeting at the crossroads where the two forbidden subjects of politics and religion intersect. This is the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. I'm Mel McGinnis. We're going to carry on part two of the conversation we had on what's taken place in Washington, D.C. To my left is Kurt Olson. To my right is Garrett Kane. How about tribunals, impeachment, and the impact on the church? Woo. Oh, my.
Oh, my is right.
Anybody want to lead off with one of those three topics?
I would like to say something how this is impacting the church. I guess one of the things that has surfaced, and it happened really quickly late last week, I believe Friday, Saturday, somewhere in that neighborhood, we started seeing mainstream media, and it's continued this week. It started with The Atlantic. They called it a Christian insurrection. It continued with, shockingly, I would have never expected this from David French. If anyone's familiar with David French, he's a writer for The Dispatch. He does some other writing with some other places. He's also a Christian. He used the phrase in his column last Sunday. And then I've seen it two other times, and it's probably been used elsewhere. And they don't use the phrase Christian insurrection. The Washington Post and USA Today talked about how this looks bad for evangelicals and all this stuff. And when I read the phrase Christian insurrection, in my mind it tells me that there were at least one and potentially multiple Christian organizations that everyone would be able to immediately be able to identify as such, and that they led what happened at the Capitol building. It is a bold-faced lie, and I want to just leave it there. It is a lie.
I totally agree with you. Were there Christians there at the speech that Trump made? Of course there were.
Yes, there was.
Were there Christians there carrying signs, Jesus saves? Were there Christians there singing hymns? Yes, there were.
Yes, there were.
Were they mixed in with elements that we prefer not to associate? Yes, there were.
Probably and potentially, yes.
We had that happen locally when we were demonstrating regarding Cuomo shutdown policies of small business. And there were some people there who had signs that were very distasteful. And the rhetoric there bothered me. I wondered if I should have gone to say something to them. But then, no, this was, everyone could come, but that's what you're going to have.
Yeah.
When you have these situations.
Yeah.
It's the the First Amendment. It's you don't want to trample anybody's rights to be there or right to demonstrate. It just happens that Christians, libertarians, conservatives, and some of these further right conspiracy type groups like QAnon and the really hardcore Trump supporters have some common ground when it comes to wanting less government overreach, more religious freedom, more school choice. We're not all eye to eye or like joining hands, but when it comes to certain things, like we have common interests in that respect. But it's tough because some of the other interests within some of those groups are totally against what we stand for as either Christians or libertarians or conservatives. But we got to give everybody that right to speak their mind and show how they feel, as long as they don't cross the line and damage someone's person or property.
Correct. And I would say it wasn't the Christian contingent, that is, those who we put in the camp of evangelical Christians that were leading this insurrection. Some may have got caught up in it, meaning they followed people into the Capitol, right, but they weren't crashing into Nancy Pelosi's office or into the chambers.
Weren't crashing into the offices and the chambers with a specific plan to do so.
Right.
Because that's one of the things that the FBI is investigating, whether some of these fringe groups indeed had a plan. There was some chatter from the Norfolk field office with the FBI that indicated that something was afoot. And they kind of explained it away. Well, we can't do that because it might be regarded as an infringement of free speech. So they kind of wiped it away. But I think they're realizing now there potentially was some merit to it, especially when there was some chatter among some of these groups on Parler and specifically that they were planning on doing something on the 6th in Washington, D.C. And the day let's start naming some names. QAnon, Proud Boys, some of the things that I've seen indicate some of these groups that have some Aryan Nation, potentially some Nazi-like worldview. And let's be realistic. Those groups are fringe groups on the right, period. And to equate them with anything that's supposedly mainstream is silly.
Yeah, and Nick Fuentes pops up too. I said, I'm not sure what to... And it makes me wonder, if Christians are engaged in something like that, on a large scale as that, should they advertise their faith? Meaning, should we hold Jesus Saves signs? Should we be singing hymns in such a situation? I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We just have to be careful, and I think this is probably a hard lesson for Christians and evangelicals of maybe be a little bit more careful of the company we keep and how cozy we get with some of these groups that are obviously share some of our causes, but for the most part are way out there in terms of being Christian based.
And I think, too, that most people going up there would say this is going to be like a Trump rally. There'll be no issues.
Oh, yeah.
This will all be
No
peaceful.
No doubt.
And that trap was set, in a sense, for them to get caught up into it. Yeah. Let's visit the impeachment quick. Do you think that was a proper impeachment setting, or the conduct of the Congress in doing that? Was that properly done, in your estimation?
No.
No.
It's totally opportunistic, I think. The left smells blood in the water, and they're circling, and the end game in all this is obvious. It's to basically put Trump in a place where he can't achieve political office again. And that's what a conviction on the second impeachment would do. And they see the time is ripe. They think they got enough, in their opinion, to run with, and they're running.
Yeah, it's purely a move to divide the Republican Party, which is working. And there's this phrase in politics: when your opponent is in the process of destroying themselves, get out of the way. And okay, in the case of impeachment, they're kind of getting in the way, they're kind of pushing it along, but some of the other stuff that we've seen all week it kind of falls along that line. It's like, okay, you want to kill yourself? Go ahead. We'll just kind of sit over here and watch.
Yeah,
Get the popcorn.
Trump right now, regardless of whether you think there's enough evidence or whether or not you think he incited, he's kind of acting like the son who's mouthed off to mom while dad's been at work, and he's trying to apologize to mom at this point, hoping that he can lessen what he knows are going to be severe consequences when dad gets home.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and I like what Congressman Brian Mast had to say during the impeachment when he said this. On January 6th, thousands of people broke the law by taking siege of our Capitol here with us inside. Has any one of those persons who brought violence on our Capitol been brought here to say whether they did that because of our president? He stood there. 27 seconds in silence. You heard a smattering of those behind him say words like none, and then the other side just sat there in silence. I thought he had a good point. in saying this was a procedure rushed through, rammed through, just to make someone look bad.
And to get back to a libertarian, Justin Amash, now former congressman, I saw him on Twitter the other day, and he was livid that there had yet to be any kind of accounting from law enforcement and security before multiple committees of the House and Senate. He's like going, that's a minimum that should be happening by now. That they would be asked questions about what happened and why, at least what they know so far, and how this could happen. I mean, it's a great point. And it gets to one of the other issues we've frequently brought up here. These our members of Congress tend to be all talk, all bark, no bite. The accountability aspect is completely, thoroughly missing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Right.
They're in survival mode right now.
Yeah.
Congressional Republicans, they don't know how to survive either. Like depending on their district, you look at Tom Reed, whose district spans a lot of liberal area and conservative area,
right,
and he is walking the fence.
I agree. Because as far as I know, he was against impeachment.
Yes.
However, he would have inserted a measure to make sure Trump could not run for office again. And to me, that's out of bounds. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was way out of bounds. And if he's going to be a conservative, please call yourself something else rather than go for legislation or a measure like that. Yeah. All right. Well, final topic, tribunal. Tribunal. Is that serious or is it a joke?
It's actually the first I've heard of it today. I've been trying to tune out a little
Yeah.
bit, and my work schedule is different, so I am not on the ball in terms of the recent developments.
I really haven't heard at the time of this taping what's been going on, but for me, tribunal, you would have to have something that's just so extraordinarily unusual and obvious to insert this. Now, it seems like, I agree there was fraud. In fact, I feel the election was stolen. I'm not like Dennis Prager, who's agnostic on the matter, but Prager says, you ought to be able to listen to both sides on this. And for me, I've heard, there's enough to say it was a stolen election. But do I want to have a tribunal?
How? Let's calm everybody down and just have a nationwide election audit.
Yeah.
Yes!
All 50 states, every county across the land. Let's be done with it. Let's stop focusing on 6 states. We had our own fiasco in upstate New York. Congressional District 22.
Correct.
Yep.
Right.
And the Supreme Court judge who oversaw that even stated as such. He talked about just rank incompetence at the local level in multiple counties. And frankly, if I'm in Oneida and whatever other counties that he named, I'd be fearing for my job if I was an election official right now.
Yeah, I think an audit would be an excellent idea because I would love to see what is there and what's not there.
Dead people who vote.
Yep.
People who aren't registered who actually vote.
Yep.
Shenanigans with absentee ballots.
Oh, yeah.
Shenanigans with people who move from one state or one area to another. Was there a ballot that was cast supposedly for somebody? And I'm aware of at least one case. Guy moved from Arizona to Tennessee. He votes in Tennessee. Finds out later someone voted for him where he lived in Maricopa County.
Oh yeah, that's been going on for years. When I was doing the college thing, it wasn't uncommon for students who are going from out of state to double dip electorally because there's this is kind of the downfall of the federalist system in terms of our elections. There's no cross communication between the Board of Elections in New York State and the Board of Elections in Michigan.
Yeah.
So if I never got purged from the voter rolls in New York State, yet I'm going to school full time in Michigan, can get on their voter rolls,
Yeah.
that's double voting. And I'm not saying it's enough to sway the election, but that's kind of the downfall of our federal system of electoral.
We have voter rolls that need to be purged all across the country. Period. There's all kinds of people that are there that shouldn't be there, and it's time to stop playing this game where everybody does wink, wink, nod, nod, and we all know what's going on, but we pretend not to talk about it, and just be done with it and realize it's a problem and fix it. Seriously, fix it.
Yeah.
This shouldn't be a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Or just because there's COVID, that doesn't give permission
Exactly.
for anybody in the state executive branch to interfere
Yep.
with what the law already says about voting.
Yep.
And to me, that's what took place in Pennsylvania. That's what took place in Wisconsin. And
At least 2 states.
yeah, and the courts failed to uphold the law.
Yep.
They inserted their own opinion or feelings in the matter rather than reading the law as it was written.
Amen.
We're seeing fallout from that. And I don't want to see this mail-in voting again unless you go by way of proper absentee application.
No, New York is going totally haywire in terms of election law. I don't know if it's on the floor or due to come to the floor, but there's a bill in Assembly that if you make any transaction at the DMV, they just automatically register you to vote. Like if I buy a car from Kurt and go to register the title in my name and I'm not enrolled as a New York State voter, automatic. DMV just does it.
Yeah, and I feel like
Wow.
right now I feel like there's nothing basically we can do as citizens because the power is in the left
Yep.
and they have it, and that's what they'll continue to do. It's just these battleground states that I feel.
Yeah.
And who knows what will take place because we're going to see, I think, on down the road, and at least federally, let's see, is D.C. going to become a state? Will Puerto Rico become a state? Will these immigrants, aliens coming in from south of the border, will they be just put on the voter rolls too?
Yeah.
I just think the possibility or potential for chaos is there.
Yeah.
Well, we ran over time, but there was a lot to talk about on this session of the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. Thank you, Kurt and Garrett, for joining me here today.
Thanks.